Medford, part 2. What's been going on? What's been going on, dude?
Sorry, I felt like such a bore on the last one.
No, dude, it was awesome. Actually, I'm glad because we spent like an hour talking about you, talking about your history, and then we spent another hour just talking about like
I know a bunch of stuff that like nobody cares
so
about.
this time,
Yeah,
it's going to be all shit that people care
cool.
about, right?
Yeah, so if you want to know about me, fucking go to the first one.
That's right. Yeah, sure. We've already done that. We've already gotten that out of the way.
Yeah.
So now we've got all kinds of shit.
I'm an Aries.
All kinds of shit to talk about today.
All right, let's
like
hear
there's just so much.
There's
Okay,
a
so
lot
where
of
do we want to
stuff.
start? I mean, what's going on right now with California? I mean, okay, so we can pick any topic. You want to come on and talk about whatever. You start. Where do you want to start?
Well, you asked me to come on before for the inaugural thing, and then
right.
after I watched 5 minutes, I was like, "Oh my god, nobody gives a shit about me." The whole time. So I think you were curious to know about me. The audience couldn't care less. So I figured now you could delete the first one and just put this one up.
Yeah. So what do you think about these fires in California? I mean, there's all kinds of stuff, but tell me what you think about these fires.
I think that everything is, I think everything barely works. I think leadership barely works. Like when everything's perfect, leadership barely works. Teams barely work. Governments barely work. Everything barely works because there's not much excess in anything. You know, leadership doesn't work by 50%. It works just enough to get the job done. It's human nature. You can't put more effort into leadership that's not required to execute a mission. More leadership's wasted effort. You should have put that in running, being better fit, being, whatever. So I think government barely works in its best. So when you off its game just 1% or 2%, it fails. Just like oil, we don't make extra oil every year. We track oil right about where consumption is globally. That's the game. And when fracking comes in and changes global production 1%, it can crater the market, right? Everything. COVID came along, we ran out of mortuaries. That's because we don't have extra mortuaries sitting around.
Yeah.
We're built for a certain tempo of life. Mm-hmm. So you have leadership in a community and it barely works. So if you distract it with DEI and you distract it with a lesbian agenda and you distract it with just a little percent here, 0.5% there, next thing you know, you're 3% distracted and 97% of 100% fails at the mission. So I've heard, like I have friends who live in the area, over in California, and they're talking about it with me. I was just at lunch with somebody and this gal says, "Oh, there's pictures of laser beams." And I'm like, I think that Babylon would burn all the time if leadership doesn't work. And if leadership's off just a little bit, Babylon starts to burn. And so I've heard, with those winds, nothing they could have prepared. Well, they've had strong winds before. It wasn't sustained 100-mile-an-hour winds. They had gusts to 100 mile an hour. That happens. Maybe. What we do know is that they've been over there putting people in leadership and not doing basic things because the environmentalists pressure them not to clear the grasses. Mm-hmm. So you got the environmentalists. And instead of them saying, no, this is public policy for lives, they kowtow to the slightly unhinged, whose agenda is off the mainstream. Then, instead of having some good old boys who've been in the fire department for 2-3 decades saying, folks, if we don't do this, houses are going to burn down. I'm going to resign, publicly saying it, and forcing the mayor to allocate funds. They've got a homeless crisis. They put all the money into homeless. They've got a gay agenda, so they push all their money into DEI and diversity in the workplace. And so they've distracted themselves just enough so they could say, well, those winds are so bad, nothing that we've done wrong would have made it better if we hadn't done it. But that's not true. If they had cleared the brush, if they didn't worry about the smelt and had reservoirs diverted differently, if they had spent more money on infrastructure instead of their homeless crisis, all of these generated crises add up to incompetence. So why didn't they burn 50 years ago? Why didn't they burn 60 years ago?
Well, they definitely didn't have this DEI agenda. And, like the 3 primary people in the fire department in that city are DEI hires, clearly.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know how qualified they are. I don't know. But when you have three lesbians at the top, like, they got there because of DEI.
The agenda there wasn't public safety.
Right.
Well, the one, there's the chief, right? Whatever. I'm not going to get off on that. But then there's the assistant chief that is on record. You guys probably saw the video where she's being interviewed. She's about 350 pounds on the hoof. I mean, so we'll just talk about qualifications. I mean, she's not doing anybody any good. But then she goes in and she actually says, they go, well, what do you say to somebody that looks at you and says you can't pull somebody out of a house fire? And she says, if they're stuck in there, that's their problem. They shouldn't have stayed. They shouldn't have been there. I work for the fire department. I'm sorry. That's never an excuse that we're allowed to use.
They have been I don't want to bag on those three gals and blame them for this. They're a symptom of the problem also. Those people over there have voted for this gross incompetence with their head up their ass sunshine view of the planet that's wrong-headed. And I don't wish that pain on anybody. And the problem is there are a bunch of things that they could do to be prepared as a society, but instead of being prepared over there, they're playing.
Do you think they're going to get away with it? I mean, these politicians, or do you think? I mean, we've already in the election we saw it move red. You think it's going to continue to move red, or do you think that? I mean, they've got people on their side. These politicians, Gavin Newsom, the View's backing him. There's a lot of people, a lot of celebrities backing him, like he's doing an okay job. Do you think that's got enough weight to get him elected again, or do you think it's going to move?
The problem is those people have been, the way they set up their legislature and their primary process in California, and I can't really get into the voting nuances of it because I'm not an expert in California politics, but they've set it up so they've not had to defend themselves for years. So they say this crazy shit and they actually believe it. I don't know if they'd put a good old boy Bubba, good fireman chief in there, if this problem would have been fixed or not. But how many excuses do you need to make to say it's not our fault? Well, at the winds, nothing we could have done. Not controlled burns, not in the land of technology, not automated sprinkler systems like they have in Japan all around those wooden towns over there. We've all seen videos of that stuff online. Not this, they make one excuse after the other. And I'm like, God, it all adds up to a lot of excuses. And yeah, it was windy. They call them Santa Ana winds. They've been around forever.
Yeah.
So do I think they're going to get away with it? They will continue to get away with it because the people in California continually choose to not look at the facts. And they're propagandized. They're still drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously we've seen a shift. They're not as many, but most of those are in the rural areas. I mean, the cities are still super deep.
Rural California is like Texas.
Yeah.
They're like us. It's America. But you get within, 10 miles of LA, 10 miles of Sacramento, and 10 miles of San Francisco. They're out of their goddamn minds. Yeah. And what's spooky is when I talk to my conservative friends, they sound like squishy Democrats here in Arizona. They're so beat down and they are so entrenched and they are so immersed in this liberal pablum that bleeds out of California. They take their kids from across America, they turn them all into sex objects, and they produce awful content, brainwash America. And then they have their head up their ass.
So we've got some hearings that are happening right now. We just, Pam Bondi's going on right now. Last couple of days has been Pete Hegseth. What do you think about these things?
Are you talking about for Trump's appointees?
Yes.
I think he's going to get everything he wants.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I think Pete did a good job. I think overall, I even have some questions with him, but I think overall he did a good job. He was one of the most contested that I saw.
They don't like him because he's squared away, and they don't like him because he'll wade in. When someone comes along as borderline competent, you kind of shrug because you go, "Oh yeah, the machine will handle that." I don't think the machine's going to handle him.
I don't think so either. And they've had just nothing but generals in that position and lawyers and people that really aren't boots on the ground. Not our people. And he's not one of them. And I think that scares them. They don't know what to expect from him.
Are you kidding me? It's like a lieutenant has just been handed the whole military.
Well, one of the big things that I heard over and over was that he's not qualified because he's not a general or because he's not some kind of, he didn't come from Raytheon.
He's not an insider we can't control.
That one senator actually said, "Hey, just so you guys know, I Googled the qualifications right here. A civilian is what it says. It's not even, doesn't even have to be a."
They like you entrenched so they know where you're going to be on
Yeah,
everything.
sure.
And I love the fact that he's not. This is the most. I love to watch the technology people squirm because they have been making all of us squirm for a good 15 years now with their disruptor mentality. They like to disrupt everything.
What do you mean technology people?
The whole tech world is about disruption. You know, everything is. This is a disruptor technology. This is a disruptor app. It disrupts medicine. How medicine is delivered now is disrupted, right? How we get a taxi has been disrupted. How we get our food as everything. That whole universe of theirs is disruption. It's like knock over and see where everything stacks up more efficiently, right?
It's kind of like what's happening with AI. AI is one of those disruptors that nobody knows where it's going to go.
That's what's spooky about this one. Yeah, this one's not controlled by two kids smoking pot up in Marin County.
Right. That's, well, that coupled with all this quantum computing stuff that's coming out. I mean, there's just so much. I want to get into talking about, I guess the way to put it is the end of the world.
Well, let's talk about just the hearings, for instance, okay? You would think that Trump, being a one-term president now, is going to come in and is essentially a lame duck. He's raised $700 million since Election Day. 200 for his inauguration and $500 million in general funds.
For what? To do what with?
That ain't no fucking joke. That means usually they have no money raising capability their second term. He's walked in and he has a war chest. Say, oh, you don't want my guy Pete? I'm going to run a primary candidate against you and give him $100 million. Good luck to you. Like, it is a big dick move of the highest order for a second term president or a one-term president to have $500 million on hand. That's unbelievable.
Well, this is something I've been thinking about. You know, one of the complaints that I've heard about the conservatives is that we've been too soft, and that the Democrats really play hardball and they go after it. Yeah. Now we live in a country where we don't want to. You know, there's some thin lines that we don't want to cross. Do we cross into maybe tyranny or something like that? But how hard do the conservatives need to go this time to get what they want?
I think you follow the rules and you play right up to the line. And I think there's been a status quo for a long time, and the other side has pushed an agenda beyond the line, and we've done nothing about it. This country works amazingly well with a tiny bit of accountability, and there's been zero accountability. So if anybody says, you know, what's wrong with America, I would say accountability. When's the last time we have thrown a federal politician in jail for breaking the law?
Never.
Can you think of one?
Yeah. No.
You think that's something that should happen?
Goddamn right. I mean, do you think any of them are breaking the law?
Oh, sure.
Of course.
Sure.
Of course they are.
But, you know, even Trump in 2016 didn't go after Hillary because he didn't want to set that precedent, I think, with his words.
At the end of the day, what people don't understand about him, he's a tough talking regular guy, but he's got a ton of grace.
For sure.
He really wants to just make deals. And and at his core, he is a politician. He just wants to be loved for doing the right thing. It's, oh, he doesn't care about that. He does. If he didn't, it wouldn't get under his skin. But we've never seen anybody attacked the way he's been attacked. I mean, you know, I'm a little polarizing. I've been attacked a lot online. It's nothing compared to how he's been attacked. It's unbelievable.
But do you think he should, since he didn't do it last time, but he should absolutely do it this time?
I think the argument that you should never touch the people before you, that is a red herring. You should go after people who've broken the law. That's it. If you broke the law and you came before, maybe you don't do that. And so if he doesn't go after him, it sets a precedent for that sort of political lawfare to happen every cycle or every time we've got a nasty leader in the opposing party. Mm-hmm. I say go after him.
I think it is time. I'm worried that, you set a precedent and then everybody, like the impeachments, like everybody wants to impeach everybody now. Every president's being, having, before Trump, I don't think in my life, I know Clinton was impeached, but that was for sexual issues. Like that was legit stuff.
It wasn't for sexual issues.
Oh, it wasn't?
No, it was for lying before Congress.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. he didn't get in trouble for the sex. He got in trouble for denying it. And that was horse shit too. We started that.
I just don't, I think the concern would be setting a precedent, like you're going to go after every president, because I don't know. Our laws seem to be very convoluted, and there's a lot of them. And you probably could go after people just like they went after Trump. They go after people for all kinds of shenanigans.
I think the best thing he can do is dismantle the regulatory state. Like I was just talking to a buddy of mine. He's got a house in Malibu, and he's got a big sprinkler system set up at his house, big automatic thing that goes up and shoots water around his house. And he's been trying to get a pool for 3 years. 3 years. Can't get a permit out of the town, the hamlet of Malibu. They can't approve that. That's what's wrong with California. It's a bunch of mid-level bureaucrats who are not serving the people. They're serving some other agenda. That's going around the whole country. Yeah. So I think, I think it is a red herring argument to say you can't go after your predecessor. If your predecessor broke the law to get you and it didn't work, I think you go after and you make heads roll.
Yeah.
And I think what you do is you scare the bureaucratic state as well. I think, he's talking about moving 3-letter agencies out of the Beltway to various states around the country. Like imagine if you took the Department of Education, which, they want to get rid of, and said, hey, we're putting it in Dallas, Texas.
We should do that 100%.
We're going to take the FBI and we're going to put it in Des Moines, Iowa. We're going to put the DEA in Tucson, Arizona. By our southern border, what a great idea. You know what I mean? We're going to break it in 2 divisions, one in Florida and one to decentralize that group of people, what I think would be a really powerful thing to do. So I think you got to dismantle the bureaucratic state in this country. 700 and what's the? Do you know how many employees the federal government has? 75 million employees.
I don't know.
It's
insane.
They're the largest employer in the world.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And they need to get rid of half of them because we're all trying to find good employees in our companies.
Yeah. So if let's say they do, so Vivek and Elon talk about getting rid of up to 75 to 80% of the employees.
Oh yeah.
Do you think that there needs to be some kind of big severance or something to get these people transitioned?
No.
Or just figure it out?
Fuck you motherfuckers. Fuck you assholes. Everybody in this country worries about losing their job. What makes it so that you work for the government, you never have to worry again? Fuck your communist bullshit. And fuck off.
I think a lot of those people know their job's bullshit. Most of those people don't even go into work anymore.
Yeah.
I heard they had a deal where they had to work, a lot of government agencies, they had to work 1 day a month.
Yes, that's right.
So they come in January 31st and February 1st. They work 2 days and they don't come in again until March.
And Biden's trying to keep that. From what I understand, he's trying, at least I think I don't know what the word is for it, but 40,000 federal employees, he's saved their job somehow. Trump can't touch them. That's not a lot, but it's something. He's trying.
Look, I went on a date with a gal a couple months ago. You'll like this. It was right before the election. I went on a date with this gal, and she's a DEI arbitrator for Customs and Border Patrol, Arizona region.
And you actually went out with her?
Yeah, she was pretty cute.
Okay. All right.
So I went out, and I didn't know what that was. That wasn't like she didn't put that job description when I asked her. So we met, real nice gal, and she had dinner with me, and I figured she was anti-Trumper. She's a pro-Trumper, but she loves her job. She sticks up for these downtrodden folks, and she was telling me how much she loves her job. And I've interviewed a lot of women in the last few months and last few years, and she helps out she's helping the trans people within the Customs and Border Patrol deal with their bathroom issues. I asked her kind of like, hey, what's your number one thing you deal with? That was it. And she was telling me how proud she was of making sure that their civil rights are stood up for. And I'm thinking, and I know she's making good money. She's making, like, not in the threes, but way above the
As a federal
100,000.
employee.
Yeah.
Man.
Remote officing, 100%. And I was blown away. Now, I talked to her after the election, and she said, oh, they've redesignated me instead of a DEI civil rights rep. I'm now an HR person. And so they were anticipating the DEI firings to begin. So the bureaucracy had already shifted all of their titles into HR. And I was just thinking, man, what a scuzzy fucking machine. So she's at this, we're having a bite to eat. And I said, so basically you deal with retards who have bathroom problems. That's your job. That's like your thing. And she's like, when you put it that way.
I can't imagine there's a lot of trans people coming across like they're just probably using it to get some kind of privilege when they finally get detained. Don't you think?
Look, I don't know. She talked to me for an hour, and she talked to me for like an hour, and the look on my face must have said it all. And I was saying, hey, listen, points to you for not telling me to fuck off, because I'm sitting here basically laughing at your entire career. But I just couldn't believe they had a job doing that full time.
Yeah, and getting paid that much. It reminds me of like the prisons, right? Like where they're having sex change for people who are in prison, and then they're trying to get them into the gender identifying jail, and then they're going and raping people. It seems like a way just to fuck the system, right? Just to wiggle around, just
Listen,
somehow
if
get
you
out.
just got convicted of murder or rape or bank robbery, and you're dealing with, there's something about criminals I kind of like. And this is going to sound a little weird. I like them. I also like gangster rap. I always have. And I'm kind of a rogue, and I kind of like fuck the establishment a little bit. I love the gangster, like, hey, fuck it. I'm an outlaw. I'm rolling my way. I'll take my punches when they come. If you get embroiled in the system for all of your bad choices, I think it's kind of funny that they fuck with the system back. And the system's so stupid, it just engages in the crazy. Because the system's crazy. If you ever have a family member get embroiled in the law, or a dear friend or something, and you try to support them through it, you just can't believe what the system does. It's so not just. So you can see these guys play these fuck games back against them. And I don't know. It's frustrating. Like, where are the men to go? Knock it the fuck off. You're a prisoner. Get in the fucking hole.
Why can't we do that? I mean, we've gotten to a world where we can't even say those types of things.
We did do that. Joe Arpaio was doing it, and they banished him.
Because it gave women the right to vote. Because divorced women vote liberal, 7-3. I mean, because girls, as they've become financially independent, don't need men. As they get divorced, tending to stay divorced. And then that classical nuclear family that's got a woman saying very kind, sweet, loving, generous things, and a man going, "I know, sweetheart, save that for the kids. The real world's a little different. Let me block for you." And the woman going, "You're right, sweetheart," and tuck in under his wing in a really good, cohesive family. And you got a bunch of women all running around, and when you talk to them, they have 2 cocktails. They'll tell you how exhausted they are doing the man's job. To which I go, you would never hear a real man complain about being a man his whole life. Mm-hmm. That's our fucking job. The reason you complain is you're doing something unnatural.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
And if you want to know why, that's why. Because they've got nurturing, giving hearts that we don't have, and they overlap that with their voting. And I don't want to take away women's right to vote. And I'm not misogynistic. I absolutely love women. But a really good woman who's in touch with her feminine needs a good man around, just like a really strong masculine man needs a good woman around to have him expose his gentler side and be a good man to his kids.
Yeah, and we should be able to have these conversations. Even this alone will probably get us kicked off TikTok and YouTube. But I mean, what's wrong with at least having a conversation? Because I think you're absolutely right. I think women tend to be like, they're overwhelmed. They struggle in these positions. But the world, at least the United States, tells them that this is how you can F the system and F men.
And men struggle too. We just silently do it and we die younger.
Sure, for sure.
And that's the, I always tell women, I go, look, I go, cause I date the strata of folks that I'm kind of encountering in my data in my strata of dating are like, these are fucking powerful women with good fucking jobs. And they have got a glassy veneer of, I've got this shit figured out. But I'm telling you, 2 glasses of wine in, the truth comes out.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen one exception to it. It is overwhelming, and they do a great job. They're amazing creatures, and they're trying to do something all on their own that you can't do. They can fake it. They can pull it off. They can play pickleball and paddleboard and singles lady wine night and obsess on their children and die alone. They can do it too. They can do it just like we do it.
I think that's how men are wired, dude. Like, our goal is to carry a lot of weight for people. That's what we're built for.
We are built for sacrifice. It is why like 80% of divorces are initiated by women. Yeah. And because men are like, oh, I'm not supposed to be happy. Like, you don't hear guys sitting around fetching about not being happy.
Yeah.
I just heard that stat the other day. Actually, somebody told me that most divorces right now are women wanting to get divorced. It's not the man.
And it's not because men are all fucked up. We're all equally fucked up. We're human beings. But I mean, it's a goddamn 2-way street. And women who think that it's not, a person could get into a relationship with an addict and have to tear their life apart. But a lot of times, all of that stuff's very commingled with 2 people's behaviors and codependency, and all of that comes out. But in reality,
I think the world wants us to believe that it's mostly men.
Of course,
we want a younger woman. We want to trade in for the younger model. But I just heard that stat, and it's like
the best advice I've ever heard for a marriage is Julia Childs. Remember her, the chef from the 1960s? Mm-hmm. She was being interviewed. Julia, how do you do it? How do you balance being a modern woman with an international best-selling cookbook and a TV show syndicated globally? How do you stay married to, I think her husband's name was Paul. Now, Paul was not like us. Paul was fluent in French. You're not fluent in French, are you?
No.
Paul was fluent in French, and he liked to oil paint, and he wore an ascot, and he'd been in the foreign service.
And this is a man you're talking about.
Yeah. He was a fucking dandy, and they were happily married. Julia, how do you do it? And my point is, she said, well, I follow the advice of my mother. I feed him, compliment him daily, and fuck him. and the woman was like, what? And it was like the greatest advice. Her erudite, foreign service, diplomat, dandy of a loafer wearing, ascot wearing, oil painting, French speaking husband. He just wanted to be fucked, fed, and complimented. Mm-hmm. Guys don't need a lot. They think there's some trick.
We don't want to compete with women. I mean, that's the truth. We don't want to go home and be challenged. We want to go home to a nice, calm, clean home. That's it.
I don't want to fight because the world's a
We're
struggle.
fighting all day, every day. Last thing I want to come home is to another fight,
right,
or another challenge.
Right.
I need a few hours of peace.
Right. Yeah. And the challenge is, right, in a modern age, women are more financially and educationally empowered now than men are. They like to say, women make about 1% more per job by profession per hour worked than men do.
Wait a second. That's not what we're being told.
What about this?
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Wait a second.
Yeah. I mean, second set statistical analysis, but women get paid more than men. Now, men work more hours, and on the same job, men will typically get paid more. And we also won't take off 7 years for having kids or that kind of stuff. So, but if you take by career per hour worked, women are paid about 1% more. It's just a fact. And so women are more empowered now than ever. And at some point they look and say, if you kill God and God is dead, then what the hell do you need a man for?
Well, they're finding it out right now, I think.
They are finding it out. They're finding it out. It's a lot to carry. They're finding it out that it's stressful to try and keep your home safe as a woman.
Yeah.
And you do keep a man around for security.
Oh, sure. That's one of the 2 major things that men are there for. And protect and provide.
And the science, for sure, is that a woman and her children, their cortisol levels are balanced by a man in the home. If the man is loopy, the wife and the kids will be loopy. If the woman is loopy and the man is solid, the kids will be solid. We regulate off the alpha male in a house. And so you got to be a good man. So it never said all men are good.
Right.
You have to struggle to be a good man. If you a regulated man who's emotionally regulated in a home is the best thing for a woman and a children's health, mentally and physically, of everything. They'd eat fucking McDonald's, they'll be okay.
I believe that. I wonder too if the divorce rate that has gone skyrocketing up to 50% now over the last 50 or 60 years is directly correlated to women starting to work in the workplace.
Well, marriage, I mean, the social acceptance of people breaking out of a marriage, of course, matters. But, I don't know if you know much about attachment theory, but there's like 3 types of humans. There's these kind of secure attachment creatures, and then there's some anxious attachment people and avoidant attachment people. About half of Americans test as secure. About half have married parents, not a mystery. Mm-hmm. And about 90% of secure attachment people, they stay married, regardless of who they marry. Because secure people have a tendency, not secure, not like in the vernacular, the way we use the word secure. Secure attachment style is indicative of a series of traits, right? So if someone is a secure attachment style, they're very adaptive. They'll have a tendency to be very giving, and they'll have a tendency to be very workable in a relationship, and they have a tendency to not get divorced. So the only people who make it through the big screening back out in a single land are avoidance and anxious, and about 10% secure people. So everybody who's single, the least agreeable, the most self-centered, the most fearful, the most damaged, the most childhood trauma, that's who's out in the single world. 90%.
Get married young and stay married.
I call it the great sorting of the 20s.
Yeah.
And then everybody who makes it back out into the wilds like I have, and you got to look real suspect at them and go, what the fuck happened?
Yeah. Last time we talked about Ricky Lake, and you were right.
Carrie Lake.
Carrie Lake. Did I say Ricky Lake?
Ricky
What am
Lake.
I going back to my
Ricky Lake
90s?
well.
Going back to the 90s.
We can bring up Ricky Lake too.
Let's talk about Ricky Lake, man.
So,
I like
Where'd
your
she go?
skinny version.
yeah.
Wasn't she part of Wilson Phillips back in the day? Was that band?
Was,
or was that a myth?
No, that was God.
I thought Ricky Lake was part of Wilson Phillips. That's
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
Jeez, I don't know.
Ricky Lake.
If Chris were here, we'd have to pull up the song.
I know, right?
Oh man,
It'll come to me during this podcast. But anyways, Carrie Lake, she lost.
Oh, for sure.
She lost, and you called it.
Yeah.
You said it was because her rhetoric on abortion.
Yeah.
And she lost.
Yeah.
To I think a candidate who wasn't all that good. In Gallego.
Awful. I'm embarrassed he's a former Marine.
I know.
Pisses me off.
Well for her. It was starting to get like, hey, I want to run for governor. Lost. Hey, I'm going to run for senator. What's she going to run for now, dude? Like, does she just want any job? Is she just like?
Trump appointed her to some bullshit. Something. He's like, I didn't even know there was a.
I didn't even know it was a
for that.
position. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe he created one to keep her from running again. Maybe.
Well, I mean, I think she's been weighed and measured, and we will not measure her again.
I think so. We had someone on here talking about abortion, and she had mentioned, she said, like she is pro-life, but she's like, we as conservatives and pro-lifers, we come at it too harsh. And I think that's what you were getting at with Carrie Lake, is that she just came at it too hard. Like there's a middle ground there.
We come at it holier than thou. And that only works at church with your church friends, and with secularists and lefties, it comes off as kind of like 19th century ignorant. And I know you mentioned quantum mechanics. I listen to a lot of quantum mechanics, just trying to wrap my brain around it. And just when you think you got it, it can squeeze out between your fingers, There's something really sexy the physics community has been looking for over 100 years, is this unified field theory, right?
Yeah.
They want one rule that explains everything. And they're not there, but it's the magic they're all looking for. All of the brightest of our species is really thinking about that. And I try to have like this unified filter that I look at the universe through, for me. makes me really consistent. Instead of having 900 positions that I have to wrangle some perspective on, I have one view that I can look at any position. And, we talked about this. I have to decide what's the most important thing to me. Is it life? Is it freedom? Is it religion? What's the most important thing to me? And life without freedom, I could be in prison. That could be in sort of some government-run dystopian Orwellian future that I don't want to be a part of. Clearly, life's not the most important. Liberty before death. Liberty or death, right? Mm-hmm. And lack of liberty is a form of death. So for me, liberty is absolutely the most important thing, and everything else kind of falls in the hierarchy below that. If you try to process politics through religion, it will back you into extremist corners that alienate you from 80% of America on any given issue. Not all the issues, but on any one issue, if you take a religious standpoint, 80% of the people are not going to agree with you. Even because there's so many different religious groups that have nuanced opinions about everything. So it's not like, well, you take this view and all the religious people who believe in God are all going to agree with me. They don't. And then people's personal outweighs their philosophical. So if half of all Christians ostensibly are females, of that group of females, that's a lot of people, right? If 40% of America are church-going and half of them are women, that's 20%. If 20% of American believers have a self-determinative issue about their reproductive right, how many of them don't vote the way the church does?
Where do we draw the line? That's my biggest question, because as we talked last time, I asked you a question but as we talked last time, I love your idea of this unified theory. I'd never really thought, because we talked last time and I have competing interests, my political interests and my personal interests, and they don't always align. Yeah. I love your unified theory, but there are some snags, and that is, in this particular topic, where do you draw the line? I tend to think that if you can draw a black and white line, draw it, because there's no room for debate at that point. It is what it is. But here, you draw the line at 10 weeks, 15 weeks, 20 weeks. Where does that line get drawn? And is it used as a distraction for us people so the government can just kind of go off and...
It's totally used as a distraction. No matter what happens with abortion, it will not affect the outcome of our country moving forward. Boom. It doesn't affect anything.
You don't think it'll affect us from a moral standpoint, especially as we move abortion farther and farther to birth?
I don't think there is a continuum of moving closer and closer to birth. What I think there's an argument, and they haven't caged the argument right. And then we haven't been consistent, which is why we've lost the argument. In 1940, if you ask people about abortion, people were not in favor of abortion. In 2020, if you ask people about abortion, everyone's in favor of abortion. And we've been screaming about it, and we lost. We lost the argument. The science is out. We've all seen the dates. We've seen the pictures. We lost. We lost the argument. The debate is over. So to impose our will now, it literally goes against not a slim majority, the vast majority of Americans.
But where's that? Is there any way to come to a consensus on that so we can all move on from this topic?
Yes, Kansas did it. They did it wonderfully.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, their legislature was one of the first legislatures to come out. They drew a line, I believe, at 24 weeks. I can't remember what it is. Arizona has now done it beautifully. We did it through voter mandate. And we've drawn the line at viability. If a baby is viable and can survive outside the womb, you cannot abort it. Like it or not, that is not a compromise of incrementally getting to where all abortion is just anything goes. That is a big change. That is saying we have, as a people, decided that when life is viable, Mom, you don't get a choice anymore. It's a package deal. Mm-hmm. That's a big, big deal for the first time, and it should have happened back in 1960, 65, 70, and 72. And the Supreme Court never should have butted in and fucked us over for the last 60 years which has turned the EPA into an animal. It's turned the it's all of these government agencies have all overreached based on that. This assumed federal power. It's been a big power grab. And that was the Supreme Court butting in on an issue. Their job's to call balls and strikes, not make plays. And so that got thrown back out to us. And then the 50 states have to wrangle with it and draw a line. And then we see where it works best.
Yeah, I feel like too that should be a solution. So my stance on abortion is I'm pro-life as well, but if you're trying to come to a middle ground somewhere where you can get the people, the pro-abortion people and the pro-life people to go, hey, look, something's got to be done. So viable is somewhere between 22 and 24 weeks. That's a long time for mom to make a decision.
Yeah.
She's known she's pregnant for a while. She's had plenty of time to go, this was rape, this was incest, this was one night stand, this was whatever it was. I'm not ready. That's a long time to make a decision. So it's like, whereas again, to me, it may not be the best solution, but I can at least go, there's a line now. You can't go past this line. And they have to go, that's reasonable.
A good deal is a loss for everybody and a bit of a win for everybody. That's a good deal.
Yeah.
And it's public policy. We have to have public policy, not religious doctrine. That's the separation of church and state. And so until some governor wins by 99% to 1%, you don't get to just club your ideology over the other 49 dissenters. You've got to come up with public policy that fits us all. We don't want to disenfranchise the entire. Look, I'm here complaining about women having the right to vote, okay? We don't want to disenfranchise half the population. Mm-hmm. They've got to be enfranchised, and they've got rights. And now there's been an argument about it, and a solution has been proposed and passed, and we don't need to fight too much about it anymore. Now, there'll be a little nuanced in how you implement it. There'll be little nuanced arguments, but exactly what was supposed to happen happened. The worst thing it could do now is get the federal government involved again to usurp all of these state laws that have popped up. In state laws, there are some prohibitive ones, like down in Mississippi or Alabama. I think they've got a pretty prohibitive one. But in California, do anything you want. So, you can't put 36-inch wheels on a Jeep in Massachusetts. You know that? Mm-mm. It's against the law. Can't register it, can't license it, can't drive it unless you have out-of-state tags, ticketable offense. You can't send your Jeep to Hennessy to get a different motor put in it unless they have a factory reset for the Jeep. Impossible. My cousin bought one of these $150,000 Jeeps, can't license it in the state of Massachusetts. Done. So he goes to Connecticut, has it registered there. Okay, so that's what you do. You got to do you want to do something outside what's allowed in your area, you move a lot. Well, the poor can't do it. Well, the poor can't do a lot of things. They can't go to Europe on fucking vacation either. Yeah. It sucks to be poor. And you know what? You should feel the pain so you want to work your ass off and make more money. I don't know where we lost that in this culture. And I understand the heart of women saying, hey, poor and underprivileged people come from families that maybe have violence in the family. And the girl has something happen. Maybe she was raped by her uncle and finds out she's pregnant 9 weeks in, scared to death, paralyzed by being beat up by her father or her mother. And another month goes, all of a sudden you're 24 weeks. But, I understand the heart of them that making that argument. I understand the heart of empathizing for someone's plight, but you can't make their plight go away for them. That's the plight they got to deal with. It's like when somebody gets cancer, you feel horrible they've got cancer, but you can't make it go away. The fight's got to take place.
Yeah, I think the fact that we're so soft on people, I think one of the greatest examples is what we've done with the Native American community. They are all poor. They're the poorest of the poor in the United States, and it's because the government has tried to help them over and over. They won't let them stand on their own.
Well, you just listen to Malcolm X. He said the worst thing in the world for a black man in America is a modern white liberal. He said it out loud, wrote it, was super clear on it. It is the worst thing for everybody to coddle. Spare the rod, spoil the child. That ancient biblical text is the same for human beings. Anytime you make someone a ward of the state, you debilitate them. It's dehumanizing. It's what communism is. It makes everyone a ward of the state, and you're debilitated. You can hear it when you talk to them.
I think, we know that deep down, we know that.
Of course we do.
But there's so many people that, when you make the argument, this emotional argument, it hits you. I don't know why we can't get over that. We're too emotional about this issue. But it feels like deep down, these people have to work for what they get. They can't just be handed stuff, the bare minimum to live their whole life, generation after generation. This is not good.
Anyone who raises solid citizens knows you can't give your kids everything they want.
Right.
You really shouldn't give them almost anything they want. You really should make them earn almost everything they want. And that's the best outcomes.
Yeah.
I asked my kids what they wanted for Christmas this year. And they were both like, just do stuff with you. They didn't want anything. I said, come on. He's like, my son was like, yeah, he's 16. He won nothing. I go, okay, I won. I win. Just, in the game of life as a dad.
Yeah, sure.
You just want to spend time with me?
Yeah.
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, my son asked, this was a while ago, hey, can I get some money? We were going to Disneyland, the family. He wanted some money. He could buy some. Hey, can I get some money, gas, food, and stuff? I'm like, no, nope. And he kind of looked at me like, what do you mean? I go, I'm not going to give you any money. I'll give you $100 if you go with your mom. Every time we go, wife's got to have the house perfectly clean. And, all that. I go, your mom's stressed out, got laundry, got all kinds of stuff. I go, you want to go work? Have your mom make you a list. Once that list is complete, I'll send you $100. And he was kind of like, oh.
Yeah.
I'm like, how bad you want $100?
Yeah,
I'll give it to you, but you got to do something for, And he was like, all right. My wife's like, oh yeah, he's working away on this. He's asking me, hey, what else can I do?
I heard, I don't watch sports. I'm not a sports spectator at all. I couldn't care less. But my son's into basketball, so I'm, I watch basketball. I'm a passenger.
Yeah.
I think it's something like, when you grow up around, a reasonably competent dad, it's hard to find a spot for yourself. Like my dad's competent in all this fucking shit. What the fuck am I supposed to do? You know what I mean? And so because I kind of reject all sports pretty much, and I played them, I just can't stand being a fan. I don't like their patriotism. So my son, he bought me a Boston Celtics jersey. And I bought him, I forget what his favorite team is. I bought him his jersey. Who's the guy who's the best three-pointer in the...
Steph Curry.
Steph Curry. I got him a Steph Curry jersey. So, that's our thing that we kind of hang out and do together. And I've had so much fun doing that with him. But I don't know. I kind of lost my train of thought. But that's what he wanted. He just wanted to spend time. And I considered it.
I think you're right. If that's what your kids want out of you at that age, especially in their teens, late teens, you've won. Like that, I don't think there's anything else in life as you get to that age that is more fulfilling and more satisfying than that.
As you feel them sneaking up on getting out of the house, like my daughter's off at ASU, when she calls me up and wants to have lunch and she doesn't hit me up for money, I'm like, yes, ma'am.
Oh, sure.
Melts my heart. And, girls are different. And my boy, we've been bonding over the sports thing. It's kind of interesting. And I've been having a good time with that.
Okay, I want to ask you. You had mentioned before freedom. Life without freedom is jail. It's useless. Last time you were on this podcast, you said, "I'm okay with a little murder. Yeah. I'm okay with a little death, a little killing, whatever." I'm sorry,
death.
We saw a CEO of United get killed, murdered.
Yeah.
Was that too far? Because he's got a legit case. The guy who killed him. Insurance companies are frauds, I think. Is that what it takes to get people's attention?
Well, I hate to sound like a Marxist here, but, and I am okay with people making a lot of money. I really am. But you still got to deliver the product.
Right.
And I think a lot of business schools and the King's Institute, Wharton Business School, all of these business schools, I think they've gotten so focused on the machinations of making money, they forgot at the core is taking care of your customer. And if that company had balanced profit and taking care of the customer, I don't think they'd be in the boat that they're in. What I think is everywhere you go, I do not advocate the assassination of company heads, but company heads shouldn't be surprised. If you need a tier 1 personal defense detail for your job, you're a motherfucker in all likelihood. If you can't walk down the street, what are you doing? So anybody who works for a drug company, they ought to be scared out of their minds right now. Anybody who works for an insurance company, think of a product you're required, mandated, and need to get through life. And when you go to use it, mostly denied. They control the prices. They control what you can be told by your healthcare provider. It is against the law for your healthcare provider to tell you what the cash price is for something if they have a negotiated insurance price. So you have to trust that the rube who negotiated for Blue Cross Blue Shield of Arizona is going to get a better price than Dr. Smith would give you for stroking him cash for taking care of your ectomy.
That will never happen. You'll always get a better price if you pay cash.
I got a prescription one time, and I was picking up for my wife, and it was like $400 and something. And I go, yeah, no, I have insurance. They're like, yeah, that's the insurance price. I'm like, pound sand, I don't need it. They're like, well, your doctor prescribed it. And I go, I'm not paying that. No way, not with insurance. And they're like, the guy's like, well, you can always pay cash. I'm like, what's that price? $1,000? And he just
$50.
I was like, $13.
Holy shit.
I'll pay
because
that.
what happens is your insurance provider, either they have negotiated, do they allow generics? Do they not allow generics? And then they negotiate group based on, there's this whole other group that the three of us don't know about. There are these regional drug managers who manage the pharmaceutical dispersal of drugs. And there's a huge black pool of money in there. And it's how it's how the insurance companies, the insurance companies own those. They're all colluding with each other. There's nothing, I can't believe more of them haven't been killed. For as many lives as get ruined, look, I just had my tonsils out and my adenoids out so I could sleep better. Long time coming. Solid win. If I show you the data on a sleep study, I'm a massively loud sleeper till the day after my surgery, and I'm sleep like a baby now. Absolutely dead nuts. Center of the bullseye correction. $32,000. It's a 45-minute outpatient procedure.
That's your cost, or is that what the insurance paid?
Well, we're not even sure yet.
Yeah, because they don't pay that. That's the bill you see.
That's right.
That's the bill you see. They negotiate another price. They get it for half of it, whatever.
That's right.
Screws the doctors, right? The doctors are only seeing, this is outpatient, or these are family doctors. They're only seeing patients for average of 6 minutes per visit.
So this is what's crazy. So somewhere along the line here, your copay ends up being close to the cash price. And there's this other big chunk of money flowing around that we don't ever partake in, but we have to pay each month. It all comes out of our monthly. It's the biggest robbery that's ever happened. They think the COVID vaccine is the biggest. That's going on everywhere with everything. The more we know, I can't believe more guys don't get killed.
Well, the whole thing's coming undone.
This whole thing's unraveling.
Yeah.
The healthcare thing's unbelievable.
COVID really just shined a light on everything, and now it's just unraveling and unraveling and unraveling.
And the disruptor technology of, the internet and social media and YouTube and this type of format has decentralized information so much they can't control it anymore. And they're trying as hard as they can. Mm-hmm. And it's like whack-a-mole. Every time they push down on something, another thing pops up. And the information is what's uprooting everything. We're going to find out, this is when you hear people say Americans shouldn't go in debt for college. Well, not when we're giving $500 billion to Ukraine, unaudited, right? These houses burned down in LA, and they're going to play fuck games for 10 years to clean up that mess, I'm sure. We have the money to pay for everything. We collect more money than any country's ever collected, ever. Where does it all go?
Plus, we print it.
Yeah. We give it away, and then we're literally, Washington is owned by 3 groups, right? They're owned by the insurance industry. They're owned by the Defense Department industry. And I don't know, the industry of special interests, I guess. That's why this Trump thing is so crazy. Our vote matters. Like, just a common sense guy, even if you only agree with him on half the stuff, you're going to get 10 times more than you ever thought you'd get.
Do you think he's going to clean house?
Yeah. Yeah.
You think
is it going to be done? No. Is it ever done? No. Will it be building up swampiness the day he clears it up? Yep. But maybe we get a reset for 30, 40 years.
I want it to be broken completely down, almost to nothing. Like, just break it to nothing.
Fight Club. Fight Club style.
I mean, because I don't know how you can't. There's no way to nitpick. There's too many things. There's too many redundant loops in there. You can't nitpick things. You have to have a guy like Trump to go in there and just break it.
You remember Janet Napolitano?
Yeah.
She said veterans were the biggest potential sources of terrorism in America.
She said that?
Uh-huh.
She wasn't a very good dude, though.
She had a big cock, though.
Yes. Huge.
Is as odd a thing as that to say, and it was controversial when she said it, she got in a little trouble. She was 100% right, if we're fucking being honest.
Well, it depends on how you look at it. If from their standpoint, probably.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, who is most likely to know how to blow up buildings and be pissed off and seen behind the smoke screen? Veterans.
Sure.
Of course. I'm just surprised more of us don't. Till recently.
Yeah.
I don't know what the story was on that guy that blew up the Tesla truck. Sounds like it wasn't his body in the truck. Sounds like, all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. Sounds like a lot of craziness to that story.
Yeah. The CIA is off the rails, has been for a long time, completely unchecked.
Yeah.
And has spooked enough people within it who get out of it. They're out saying stuff. It's crazy.
I don't know. We talked last time about the CIA. I think it needs to go. And you know what? There's going to be a lack of intelligence. And maybe it needs to be just totally rebuilt. I don't think we should do away with it forever, but it needs to go to nothing and be rebuilt.
Well, how many
of
these
those departments?
How many of these type of agencies? I mean, there's CIA, NSA.
There's 19 of them?
Yeah, and they all pretty much do the same thing.
No.
Gathering intelligence, spying on you in one way, shape, or form. Now, the CIA are the only ones that we know about that actually have assassins, but like I said, that we know about.
Yeah, well,
but
everything, basically they are what happens when you have non-elected people with no accountability. There's no accountability. Nobody's getting rung up the food chain rung up the ladder for violation of the Patriot Act. The Patriot Act was a big power grab. Undo that thing.
Gosh.
Undo that goddamn thing.
Yes.
Nobody will undo that. These FISA courts, the only thing more corrupt than a court is a secret court.
Yeah.
There's nothing more corrupt than a court. And a secret one? That's crazy. So, do you get rid of the CIA? Man, I don't know. Seems like
I don't know. They probably do a lot of good work behind the scenes that no one knows about, but man, they do so much damage. I mean, just look at all the damage they've done, all the governments that they've overthrown. Do we really need to be overthrowing all these governments? Do we need to really be playing, this type of chess with the world, or can we just maybe focus on Americans for a while?
All right, so we've got Inauguration Day on Monday.
Let's talk about the inauguration.
Yeah.
So what are we, 5 days out now? 5 days out. It's 15th.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah.
And we're going to launch this podcast on the 20th. So he's dead. He's not dead yet. He's made it this far.
Did I just hear something about somebody trying to get to the Capitol or something, like another attempt that was foiled before it even? Did I just hear something about that?
Did you
Maybe
hear about it?
I thought I read some news and they were they're talking about the assassination attempts, and they're like, yeah, there's been some other stuff that we just haven't. It hasn't progressed to the level that the other two had, so it's just not worth talking about, apparently. But
well, I mean, did you hear this? He's already getting prisoners. I mean, there's a ceasefire right now in Gaza and Israel. I mean, I'm sure Biden's going to try to take credit for this, but Trump has been on point talking about releasing these hostages, and he's getting it done. And he's not the president.
They're like, he's going to blow us up if we don't.
Dude, Hamas literally after he got elected, they were like, "Hey, we're done. We're done."
Yeah.
Just so you
but
guys know,
now it's like real. There is a ceasefire on the table right now.
No, listen, you know how this goes, okay? If everyone gets in charge and says now their adults are back in the room, the only way you know the adults are in the room is to see how the kids are acting.
Yeah.
When the kids snap to attention and start getting reasonable, adults are in the room. Not because someone proclaims it. Mm-hmm. So the Biden administration, they said, adults are back in the room as they straighten their
Adults
tie.
that shit their pants.
Well, everybody basically started finger fucking the United States. Watch how bad actors act. You know when adults are in the room. Now you know what's going on. Now you know who's in charge. Because the planes have been flying into Florida, not Washington, D.C.
Right.
It'll be curious to see if he keeps running the country from down in Florida. Imagine if you just made Washington. What's the worst thing you could do to a Washingtonian? Make them irrelevant. The opposite of love is not hate, it's ambivalence. Mm-hmm. Become ambivalent to them. That would be the best thing that could happen.
You know what? That is a great idea. I mean, I love your idea of decentralizing Washington, D.C., because that's where just all the bullshit happens. That's where all the lobbyists are. I mean, I think it's more expensive to live there now than San Francisco. I think it's the number one city.
Yeah, it's the most expensive place in the country to live. And it's the most recession-proof. And it's the one place you can go, what's the problem with all of the agencies all being in different places? The problem is you can't easily lobby them. Mm-hmm. We needed it that way in the 18th century because we didn't have telephones and you had to find a way to all get together and argue. But everything in our government is a leftover institution of a bygone era. Mm-hmm. And it's time for some reset.
Does Trump understand this?
I believe so.
Has he talked about it?
No. He hasn't done a lot of talking since he got elected. He's really been busy. I mean, the guy works 18 hours a day. Yeah. So it'll be really interesting to see. We've never, in our lifetime, certainly, we've never seen a president step in who knows the ropes. Watch what happens in the first week.
Was it Grover Cleveland, the last president that was elected, skipped a term and then reelected?
Yeah, it sounds right. Like I'm not enough of a presidential historian to have that on the tip of my tongue. But it's pretty fast. It is a fascinating study. And it'll be interesting to see what kind of plays. I made this call the other day. I say week 1, Trump shows up in Southern California and basically shows them what an adult looks like. And that is in an area where almost nobody voted for him. The Palisades, LA, they hate Trump. If he shows up there and delivers well, he could flip that state.
For what, the next election, 28? I think so, that quick.
Imagine if he said quietly, hey guys, let's fix what happened in Southern California while we can, while their pants are down. Let's go in there and do what should have been done right the first time.
Well, you get this sense, we've sent so much money to Ukraine. We spend so much money outside of the United States. If we refocus that money back in the United States, we could rebuild this whole nation. We could be a rich nation. I don't think we need to have all this money going outside of the United States.
No.
We could do that.
And we might not need a bunch of 1940s power projection flat top aircraft carriers either. We might only need 8.
Right.
You know what I mean? We have more than the whole rest of the world combined. At some point, does that make sense? I mean, they're making missiles that can take out aircraft carriers in China because they kind of know the game. They're playing Go and we're playing checkers. No. It is a money scam going on here. Everything you look at is a money scam. Confidence game.
Who's getting rich?
Fucking everybody.
Well, I'm not getting rich.
No, not us.
Yeah,
But defense contractors, drug industry, healthcare.
What about politicians? How did they get rich
Absolutely.
out of this?
follow
Well,
Nancy Pelosi's
there's slush
trade history.
funds, there's super PACs.
Insider trading.
Yeah.
Insider trading.
And imagine you come hustle for 4 years, you're, gray bow or whatever. And at the end of this, you get to go sit on the board of a Fortune 1000 company and get a golden parachute for life. I mean, that's what they get.
Fauci's worth 12 million. I just heard that. He was worth 7 before COVID. Now he's worth 12.
Yeah.
12 million. He's been in
Public service.
for 50 years. Since he got out of college, I think. He
Yeah.
didn't do much. He's been around for a long. He's been in since AIDS. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
He was working on AIDS for the government
Yeah.
in the 1980s.
Yeah.
On how to make it more prolific.
Apparently.
Okay.
Apparently, because, well, now that I just watched this, have you seen this documentary on the origins of COVID by Jenner First? His name is.
No.
It's on Netflix.
It's right now. I don't know exactly where it's at. I know it's
they allowed that.
well. It's on Tucker Carlson's network,
Oh.
but it's pretty much. I mean, the evidence is pointing to a lab leak, and not only is it a lab leak, but the United. I mean, there's documented evidence that the United States was involved. The United States was working directly with China. China was developing the technology. The Americans were paying for it. There was some technology that was Americans, and it was gain-of-function research. It was like trying to create a virus to stop a virus, basically.
And yet you still get in trouble for talking about it, even with all the facts.
It's the documents are there. I'm trying to think what's the name of it. I wrote it down. There's the Project Diffuse proposal. You ever heard of that?
No.
Project Diffuse proposal was the smoking gun. I think came out in 2022. That outlined a government project that was the playbook for COVID. Like for years, they told us we weren't doing gain of function research. We had nothing to do with this. And there was a classified document called the Diffuse Project that is now out. And that is like, yeah, you guys knew about this. You planned it. And you did it with the Chinese, and there are whistleblowers that have come out. And
I think State Department, CIA are in on every inch of it. It smells like them.
yep, and there were CIA connections. Of
course.
these
How do you move
scientists.
these things around? How do you move this stuff around? How do you fund it?
Yep.
The only way you can come up with billions of dollars of untraceable money is through CIA or State Department brown money.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's of course where it's coming from.
There was funded through. There's no specifics on where it was funded, but it was funded through the United States in a lab in Wuhan, China. While the Chinese were working on it, we were working together.
And
on
apparently we have them all over Ukraine as well.
And you know why?
Because it's outlawed here.
Yes, exactly. Because it's outlawed here. They wanted to continue their
Yeah.
research, so they did it in China.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had heard that narrative where somebody was like, just hear me out. Putin's not a bad guy. Like, Ukraine is corrupt, it's dirty, all this stuff, and he's just going after all that. And I'm like, I don't know, man. That's kind of, I don't know. But apparently there's those labs.
I don't think Putin is a bad guy.
I don't either.
I
The
do
more I
not
look at
believe the U.S. government when the U.S. government says someone's a bad guy. Fuck you. Fuck you.
Yeah.
If you all agree, all of you in Washington, all you Democrats agree he's such a bad guy, I think you're all fucking criminals.
Yeah.
Fuck you. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. I think the guy has an existential moment going on in territory that's fucking his. It's his own Bay of Pigs invasion. It's his own Cuba. And we have fucked up royally getting involved over there, teetering us on the edge of nuclear war. Stupid. Stupid.
You know, I think it's not far-fetched to say that this whole thing is our fault. The whole war in Ukraine,
100% agree. 100% agree.
There's been a red line since after the Cold War of what not to cross, and we cross it, and we cross it, and we cross it. And if it was Russia putting nukes on the border of Mexico, or they were building bases on the border of Canada, we'd do the same fucking thing.
We'd do worse.
Yeah, we would. Yeah, we would. I think Putin's probably been
Amazingly
pretty
restrained.
tempered.
He's been amazingly restrained.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Imagine you're the head of Russia. You are a no shit nuclear power, and you have one deep water port you can use for your global presence with your Navy. One. Now, eggheads don't know what that means. Your typical ding-dong doesn't know what that means. What that means is, in the winter months, it is the only port in which they can get submarines and ships in and out their full naval fleet operations projected from their nation. They have one port. We've got New York, Boston, New Jersey, Norfolk, 3 or 4 in Florida, Galveston, Houston, San Diego, San Francisco, Seattle.
Everywhere.
We've got them everywhere. They've got one. Mm-hmm. And what that means is a global power, which they are. 4 months of the year, they could never deploy their military. Like, that's existential. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't think that registers with people, like, how real that is. That would be like 4 months of the year, America shuts down. We couldn't defend ourselves 4 months of the year. That's basically what the Crimea Peninsula means to Russia. And how we approach that, we're like, oh, well, they're just invading foreign land. Fucking stupid. Catherine the Great thought that was the most important land.
Yes.
Of her reign.
Lots of people think that's the most important land. Like, Russia's nothing without Ukraine.
Well, without the Crimea Peninsula, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I don't know. We started that. We got sucked in it. The Bidens were in it from the very beginning.
How do you knowingly push your country to the brink of nuclear war for your own personal gain? What has to go on inside your head?
Narcissism gets around. They are narcissists with power run unchecked and no accountability. Yeah.
And then they look at you and they tell you that they're doing it for you, and then this is for the people. And I'm like, it's so hard for me to believe, because I don't think I could do that. Now, maybe if I was in government for 50 years, maybe if I just was indoctrinated into that life, but I've been in government, I've been out, I've been in a number of different ways. You look at the world from a number of different perspectives.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to believe. I don't know how to say this exactly. I shouldn't say it's not hard for me to believe they're lying, but it's so hard for me to watch them and go, that's a lie. And they're saying it with such a straight face. I couldn't do that. I just couldn't physically do that. I guess it takes practice.
Or you're so fucked up that you actually believe it's true.
Well, that's what I'm getting at. When you're in that system for so long, do you believe that what you're doing is the right thing? Like, yes, yeah, I know we're pushing our country to nuclear war, but we've always done it this way. We've always wanted to. Russia's always been our enemy.
We have mostly elected people that are not very intelligent. They've not read books. Most of them are not big students of history. There's something to be said about being a blend of intellectual and a blend of practical. If you're all practical, you seem like a troglodyte. You seem like you're backwards. And if you're all intellectual, you can't fix the flapper valve in your toilet, and you got to call someone to rescue you. So you can't make your home safe. And these people are all intellectual. And I think you lose touch with reality. They're so stuck in theory land, and no one's held their feet to the fire on anything. I mean, they ran around completely unchecked during the Obama presidency, pulling their shenanigans, enriching themselves, lining their pockets, and no one did anything. The Obamas, how do they come out with all their money?
How? No one knows.
Slush funds, super PACs, donations, speaking engagements.
Yeah, that's what everybody. Speaking engagements and books is what everybody says, because that's legal.
Yeah, but God, they made a lot of money.
I mean, they've got houses all over the place, like a $12 million mansion in Martha's Vineyard. Like, that's insane money.
Right, and they have old money.
Yeah.
And they're new.
Yeah.
And they didn't do anything. People say, well, how do you go after the corruption? You don't even have to look hard. Just start prosecuting. It's everywhere. One of the most interesting things of Trump's kind of wrap-up thoughts from his first presidency, he says, I've done business all over the world. I thought we had a pretty good government and, that I had dealt with some real corrupt countries. He goes, but I've never dealt with anything more corrupt than our country. Our country is the most corrupt. Our government is the most corrupt I've ever seen.
I'm beginning to believe that we are the problem. At the same time, we are the last best hope, but we are also the problem. I don't think anybody, like if we destroy ourselves, no one's coming to save us.
Right.
So that tells you right there, like we go save everybody.
Americans are different. Like at our core, we're different. And we are the last best hope in spite of our dumb government. And our government is awful. But there's nothing that inspires. Americans come with a loud hope that the rest of the world hasn't had either ever or in hundreds of years. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's the lawlessness. Maybe our lawlessness at its core is why we're so hopeful, because we'll figure it out. We can make it happen. We have a can-do attitude. I was reading about the Panama Canal. So the French had been working on the Panama Canal for 16 years and had lost something like, I believe it was 6,000 or 8,000 men in the construction so far had died. 16 years. And then we come in and take over the project. And guess how many men we lost finishing the Panama Canal? 25,000.
Dang.
And Trump says, we got a bad deal down in the Panama Canal. We gave it back to the Panamanians knowing they couldn't run it. And they gave it to the Chinese. And now they're taking advantage of us. And we built that with 25,000 SOBs, souls on board.
Dang.
Plus another 6,000 or 8,000 Frenchmen. That's our canal.
And our funding too.
Pretty fascinating. We have not done anything bold or audacious in forever.
I'm not asking this question for your comment directly on this, but just as a general idea of what Trump's going through, what is going through his head. He's talking about Canada as the 51st state. He wants to go to Greenland.
Yeah.
Is that his mentality? Like we need to get back to number one. We need to dominate. Like what's his mentality of talking about bringing these other countries into the United States?
Hegemony, because we're good and they're not. And he's right. Because we are better.
For sure. But it also comes off as like arrogant.
Right. That's because we forgot what it sounds like to say, I'm going to hit the ball in the left field in little Timmy's glove. We forgot what it sounds like to say, we're going to win. We forgot what it sounds like to stand on the dead skull of our enemy and be okay with it. We've been ashamed for 70 years of winning. We've been ashamed since we won World War II.
Yeah.
Enough already. He's saying enough. He makes a joke about buying Greenland. Well, if we can't buy it, we'll come up with a deal, because if we don't, China's gonna. And you know what? Every crazy thing he says, I always say he's crazy like a fox. Every crazy, batshit crazy thing he says, you go, God, he's saying that. Well, and if you read about Greenland, there are minerals for batteries, there are minerals for semiconductor and for energy, are potentially 100-year boon for America. He's got Denmark talking with him now about independence for Greenland. So he says he's playing chess also. He's not playing checkers. So you say 51st state to fucking spook somebody so that they start saying, well, Jesus, we don't want to get into conflict with the U.S. And he goes, we need you to be a state. We just need you to be a protectorate like Puerto Rico so that we get your stuff, not China. That's what's happening, right? He says the thing about Canada being the 51st state, which I've said as a joke, drink over a beer to my buddies, no less than 100 times in my lifetime. He says shit that guys say to each other while they're drinking, but he says it like to the world. Common sense shit where we all say, God, if only I were in charge, I'd solve all the world's problems. He's doing it. So what happens within a week of him making that joke?
Trudeau's gone.
government falls.
I mean, that's insane. Do you know how that happened? I'm just like, all of a sudden Trudeau's like, I'm out of here. What happened?
Basically, Canada knows they're a proxy state of America. They already are. Biggest trading partner, biggest energy partner, biggest everything partner. They already know they're a satellite of us. And he just said, no confidence, fuck off. Kid, I'll let you be a governor. And they went, uh-oh, get rid of him. Like, he has been abusing Canada for the last 10 years, and they can't get rid of his ass. Trump got him to quit in a week. He showed up at Mar-a-Lago, went home and quit his job.
What was it that made him quit? Like, was it a domino effect? Was there one thing?
It was Trump out loud saying, yeah, we're going to make Canada the 51st state. Maybe we'll let you be a governor.
But why would that bug him? You know, he gets a lot of flack.
It doesn't bug him. Everybody up there just went, uh-oh. The United States is joking about us, taking us over. What the fuck? Like, that's a big...
Did he get forced out? Or did he make the decision, Trudeau?
He got forced out by Donald Trump. He gave him a vote of no confidence, which means every conservative in Canada's head about exploded, and half the liberals just smacked their forehead.
He literally left because he's like, for years, people didn't trust Trudeau. They didn't like Trudeau, but he stuck around. Yep. And then Trump comes up and says,
I'm going to crush you.
And he's like, I'm out.
And he showed up down there to kiss the ring, and Trump said, I'm going to crush you if you stay. Go away. I mean, I think it's the funniest thing ever.
Dang.
Well, no, we have never seen, like, billionaires are different creatures. I don't know if you've met any billionaires, but they're fucking bosses. They're different creatures. They make a world happen around them that, regular folks, we don't get to do. We got one of those and a president all in the same body. It's crazy.
I just the fact that he just made Trudeau quit shows you just the power of his presence. The fact that he's already getting stuff done in Israel.
The fact that he made a joke about Greenland and the Danish are talking about giving independence to Greenland now is a thing. Like, people don't realize, I think we realize it, but it's a distant sense. America was built on really, really big balls, audacious ideas. Our initial independence from the British. The Louisiana Purchase? Are you kidding? The westward expansion? The buying of Alaska? Think about buying Alaska.
Yeah.
I don't know, $300 billion or whatever. We bought a state. We haven't done anything ballsy in forever.
Yeah.
He's just talking about doing it and shit's happening.
Yeah.
Because really what happens is everything's for sale. What's the price?
Yeah.
People say, well, you can't just buy. Well, we bought Alaska. That wasn't that long ago.
There's 56,000 residents in Greenland. If he said, we're going to make every one of you a billionaire.
They'd love us.
Do you think they'd let him buy the country?
Hell yes.
Like, there's a number.
And it's, that's tactical.
Fuck yeah, it is. It's not, it is a major deal.
Dude, Alaska isn't even close to being attached to the United States. And we were just
it's going to be after Trump gets it.
But we were like, we want that. Why? Because it's that close to Russia, and Russia was controlling it. No, we want that.
Well, yeah, and Greenland's a major, major, major tactical area for Russian seafaring, assault on the East Coast, for missile flight paths, for everything. So it is a major, major, major tactical thing. And, when people say, no, they roll their eyes at him, and I go, God, you guys are just neophytes. He is playing on a whole different level. Like, really, like Thomas Jefferson or Monroe Doctrine, our hemisphere, the hemisphere of influence. He functions on a really, really big chessboard.
Yeah.
It's pretty amazing. And just to say it can make it so.
So what do you... the world's getting more and more dangerous. There's these weird drones flying overhead. What do you think I mean, some talks about nuclear spill, some talks about they came out of the ocean and they're Iranian drones. What do you think they are?
The drone stuff?
Yeah.
Man, I don't know. It could be a CIA confidence. It could be a CIA operation. Like, all I know is it seems like we have no leadership in this country working right now in very much the same way that Southern California has just found out their leadership has failed them. It seems like we have a bunch of people doing jobs. They shut the government down. Nobody notices.
Yeah, exactly. Shut it down.
They
Who
shut the
cares?
government down. Okay, you know what? Keep it shut down.
Yeah.
Fuck you guys.
Shut it down.
There's no leadership saying, hey, let's get rid of these drones.
Yeah, why don't we shoot them down?
We can get rid of drones.
Yeah. If you're the president of the United States and you go, look, I don't really know what these are. Well, then get rid of them.
So my guess is we knew exactly what they were, or nobody's in charge. If you watch that Julia Roberts thing that Barack Obama produced on Netflix, that apocalyptic cyber attack thing, the big takeaway from that whole movie, did you see it? It's kind of an apocalyptic thing, and we find out at the end it was a cyber attack by AI on humans, and it pointed the fingers at everyone else, and society collapsed.
Skynet.
And on the East Coast, they were saying it was the Koreans. On the West Coast, they were saying it was the Chinese. And down here, they were saying it was from this country. Yeah. The takeaway from that, being produced by a recently seated president, the biggest takeaway that was the spookiest is that no one's in charge, including the president. Now, that's from a guy who I think would take it in the ass for wine money. That fucking guy, I don't care that he's gay. That guy was a skillless motherfucker.
Who are you talking about?
Barack Obama.
Oh, okay.
He was skillless, and just because he didn't talk like he was from the ghetto, idiot racist white people all thought he was Mr. fucking erudite. Not that intelligent, not that well. He spoke just like George Bush in 5-word squirts. If you ever listen to him talk, it's fucking painful. I'm like, God damn it. Get through a sentence for Christ's sake. He wasn't in charge. They ran him. And right now, there's nobody in charge. Zero. And why is it a guy down in Mar-a-Lago with orange skin and a comb-over hairdo is running the world already by proxy? Because no one's in charge. There was nobody to make the call about shooting down the drones. Who's going to make it?
We knew that. I mean, we knew this. When the whole world knew that Biden wasn't there, it was with that debate. Lots of people knew that well before that. But we all knew. And as soon as the election happened, we like, who's going to run this country? Biden's got 6 months left. At that point, he had 6 months left. We know there's nobody there mentally. And then who else around him is going to make those decisions?
Because a president at the end of the day has to make gutsy calls that the staff's all in disagreement over, and they have to make a call. There's nobody making the call. And there hasn't been any making the, and that's almost what Washington wants. They want a Rubin there who doesn't make the call.
The cool thing about it was to see, November 5th, we have an election, and November 6th, you didn't see Biden again. Kamala was not, like, heads of state are coming here and they're being met by Trump. They're okay, we want to talk to this guy. Hey, dude, I'm still the president. Yeah, no, we don't want to talk to you. Biden just disappeared.
No. And you want to know, follow the money, man. Like him raising $500 million post-election, it was $700 million. That's unbelievable. I don't know. I think we're seeing like people say, oh, I can't believe you're that much of a fan of Donald Trump. I'm that much of a fan of America. I think he's a win for liberals. I think he's a win for conservatives. I think he's a win for Jews. He's a win for blacks. He's a win for every Asian persuasion. He is a win for women. He is a win for everybody. And I just want to see them all win in spite of their acrimony.
Yeah, the only people that he's not a win for are the people that are in the system, that are the government bureaucrats, raking money off the top from
and you know
American
what?
People.
All that. Hey Siri, how many employees are there for the U.S. federal government?
The federal government employs almost 3 million people and is larger than.
Does that include military or just the federal government?
Federal government, 3 million people. Holy shit, that's a lot of people. And you know what? They would all have better, more rewarding lives out hustling in the free market, being off the government teat. It just seems like a good deal because you're getting away with something.
Yeah, I think the only problem is even though I think we can all agree that the first 4 years were a win for liberals, women, black people, they just won't admit it.
That's okay.
And they'll never admit it.
Yeah, that's okay.
But, like I've argued with people, they're like, oh, the argument always goes back to, well, Trump's a convicted felon. Hold on a second. Not really. They always want to pick on some bullshit. He's a racist. He's whatever. And I'm like, let's take politics out of it. Let's take the fact that maybe he's pro-life out of it. Look at 4 years. Do you remember ISIS? Do you remember that word? And they go, oh, yeah. I'm like, gone. Within a month, gone. North Korea, first president to step foot on North Korean soil in how long? Iran was playing ball. China was playing ball. Russia was playing. Everybody was playing ball.
Yeah.
And it was like, they're like, that's just because he's crazy. Maybe. But if you got a guy that actually says to North Korea, look, buddy, I got a bigger button than you, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with
like
him
they made fun of him
that.
for saying that is one of the best things you could possibly say.
I'm like, I'm totally cool with that because guess what? They played ball. They lined up.
He says it like a kid on the schoolyard. Yeah. My button's bigger than yours.
Yeah, well, then he goes,
so funny.
I'm
You're
the president.
Oh
I get 2 scoops of ice cream. Like, cool. Guess what? He's arrogant. He's a billionaire. He's earned that right. But everybody played ball. Everybody fell in line. So you can say what you want about, oh, well, he's going to take women's rights. What rights did they lose when he was in office for 4 years? Nothing. So get rid of your stale bullshit, tired arguments, and look at the facts and just go, dude, the country was safer. Everybody, like, it just was. It was just better.
There are a group of people in this country who process by fear, and there are a group of people who process by freedom. And at the core of everybody who hates him, you will see a fear paradigm. It's how they see the universe. And it's a more feminine argument. And it just is. It's not like misogynistic on my part. They're just fear people. And it is very, very hard to get fear people and talk them out of feeling and seeing fear. One of my favorite things to do is take liberals, especially women. I like to take them shooting. It's one of my favorite things to do. Get them over the fear, and they get the trembles and the shakes when they start, and get them out shooting a couple times. And I love hearing about, oh my God, my wife won't stop talking about when we went shooting out in Arizona. She actually went and bought a pistol and is taking a concealed carry course in New Jersey. When women feel empowerment, when you give women empowerment, when you can find a way for them to grab empowerment, not give it to them like it's a gift, the fear quotient goes down and they get more reasonable. Everybody is more reasonable when they're more in charge. The more someone hates Trump, the more afraid they are. That's what I've noticed over the last 10 years. All the bluster, you meet a big blustery liberal who hates Trump, they're a scaredy cat. The more they hate him, the more afraid they are. And so I like to do it like a therapist. I like to go kind of talk about their fear. What are you so afraid of? Well, then they'll tell you, well, that hasn't happened. But who said that?
They also keep saying, well, he's going to start World War III. He's the person that avoided it for 4 years.
Yeah.
North Korea has been a problem for a long time. For 4 years, they weren't.
Well, obviously, we're going to see everything simmer down really, really quickly.
I know. I feel like one of the questions I had for you, I wanted to talk about kind of like nuclear war and all this stuff. But at the same time, I'm like, I think we're so close to Trump getting in. I think it's a question that needs to be talked about later because I don't think it's going to happen. But I felt so close to it over the last few years. It just felt like, man, we are inching our way to nuclear war.
So looking in the mirror, did we as conservatives, because we disliked the policy of the administration, whoop up that battle cry the way liberals whoop up "you're taking away abortion" cry? Did we do that to ourselves?
I don't know. Did we?
Maybe.
I don't think we did it to the level that liberals would have done it to, but I definitely think it's a legitimate fear.
It's a legitimate fear, but did we whoop it up into something? Yeah, we did. Partially. But when you have a guy who has one of the biggest nuclear arsenals in the world saying, don't force me to use nukes, I will not be backed into a corner on Crimea, that's a big line.
It's a legitimate fear, I think. I don't think it's just like some bullshit like women don't have rights anymore. That's bullshit. They always have rights. But as Putin starts to invade, starts a war in Ukraine, there's shit going on in Israel. We know Iran wants to go to war with us.
Yeah.
We are inching our way towards nuclear war.
Yeah.
We were. I think it's probably going to ease now. I think things are going to get back to somewhat normalcy.
Well, look, we were with the Abraham Accords. Every president since Jimmy Carter and the Camp David meetings that have happened our entire life, trying to wrangle some bullshit two-state settlement in Israel between the Palestinians and Israel. Every presidency since we were kids, and older than me even, has wanted to have that be one of their crowning achievements. The guy quietly was doing it, and it would have been done in 4 weeks. He had already, with what was going on with the Abraham Accords, he had already locked up 3/4 of the Middle East. This next 4 years, we're going to see a solution in the Middle East, the first time since post-World War II.
And it's gonna happen right away. Isn't that crazy?
Well,
It's gonna happen
you know
right
what?
away.
Anytime in the next 4 years is right away, but the chess pieces are already being laid because they had already laid an intellectual island hopping campaign to isolate Syria and Iran. And then you isolate them and you push on them enough until they break. And you don't back off and you don't take your foot off the bully's throat. So that's going to get simmered down. I think the Crimea Peninsula, I think it'll be in 30 days. I think it'll be resolved. I've been saying this for. He said on day one. Within 30 days, I believe he will unring the bell of what's going on. So Lavrov comes out and says publicly, "We are not interested in any of the solutions that President Trump has offered." And 2 days later, Putin unsays that. That tells you the power of what the resolution.
Do you think the Crimea Peninsula stays with Russia as part of that solution, or is it back to independence?
Well, what had been negotiated before Zelensky got elected, and part of his platform was this German-French accord they had put together to make, I believe, the Crimea and Donbass be independent, ethnically Russian Ukrainian republics. That was a very slippery, is like, hey, look, you're going to stay under our flag. You will pay taxes to us. You will be part of our nation, but you can remain ethnically Russian. We'll stop beating you up for speaking Russian, and government and Russia gets free reign back and forth to do its bidding out of its only deep water, cold weather port.
And that was agreeable with Russia, and everybody was kind of,
Everybody agreed to it, and it's what Zelensky ran on, and it's what he won on.
And then he started.
They were days away, I think, from
And the day he was elected,
Started throttling back on that.
who showed up?
the dude from England. What's his name?
State Department.
Well, State Department did too, but I think ultimately it was Boris Johnson. Is that his name?
I don't know. My understanding is that the message was very clear from the United States that would not be signed and that would never be a deal, and that we intervened and said no fucking way, and that we were pouring billions in there in 11 research laboratories. We were pouring billions of research dollars into the country. All that would stop instantly, amongst a bunch of other things. You know, you peel back the layers of the onion, you just can't believe it.
Well, there's a lot of ways we can kill ourselves.
Oh yeah,
So nuclear is not the only one. We've got biolabs in Ukraine.
yeah.
I mean, we've seen with COVID how a pandemic, if big enough,
AI is more likely to kill us than anything.
AI, well, get into their AI, quantum computing,
Yeah.
nuclear. I mean, every technology that we build it for good, and then we use it for bad. So there's lots of ways now that we can. So nuclear might be simmering down, but there's all kinds of stuff underneath the surface, all kinds of, I think, international issues. I mean, we've got biolabs everywhere. We got one in China. We've got them in Ukraine. What do you think happens?
I think AI is the spookiest thing I've ever even heard of because it's plugged into everything. And I just read a story this morning talking about how the very first AI went online and tackled there's some encryption. It's 49 something, 49, not 49-bit, but it's like 49 with some catchy word. It's the name of the encryption technology. It's the most secure everything. It would take a regular like Cray supercomputer 20,000 years to crack one of these things. And they gave AI the problem. And when the guy got back from going to the bathroom, he just wanted to see how far and the problem was solved. And within 24 hours, all the 3-letter agencies showed up. All of their secure firewalls had been cracked. And they knew what server had done it, and they went right to him.
Now, is this AI in conjunction with quantum computers, right? Because
Quantum computing with AI, like, I don't think we can overstate what good it can do, nor can we overstate what bad it can do. It can, in real time, be changing our video if you're broadcasting. If you're broadcasting live, it can change just words. You won't even know. It can change texts in real time while you're texting because they've got back channel connections to everything. It's all some encryption technology. Once you've got something that has broken all the encryption, you and I are texting each other. I don't know, look, I've been a single guy in the era of texts. You can text something and it gets taken wrong and you're in a breakup in the middle of 2 sentences. Mm-hmm. Imagine what it's like with world leaders communicating digitally, which is what goes on mostly, and somebody in the background, while you think you're sending an end-to-end encrypted message, changes 2 words. They could start a nuclear war. I mean, it takes, with everyone's best intentions, miscommunications are all the time, right?
So that's encryption issues, but encryption doesn't clearly, it's almost indirectly lethal, but not directly lethal. One of the things that I'm scared of is we're making robots and we have AI and we have quantum computing. You put all 3 of those together, you have drone armies. You have no problem, I think now, we already have drones, but you have no problem, I think, as a country sending your drones off, non-humans, off to war. And they're going to be much more lethal than we are.
I think the problem is energy. I think the energy is going to be the problem.
They're building nuclear power plants just to run these AIs. You know that Google's already proposed like 3 different nuclear power plants.
Yeah, and they're going to have to because these things take so much energy to compute. Yeah. That may be the Achilles heel to them, at least in the near term. They'll get more efficient as time goes by. But the ability to seamlessly tear down firewalls and no one knows it and interject themselves into communication, that's the scary part.
That's basically tricking us against ourselves.
Yes.
Yeah. So
you don't need a bot army.
You don't need an army.
Yeah, because you need mechanics and you got to make it all. Just get them to kill each other. It's way easier.
Who's behind that? Like, there's got to be some human that programs it that way, or no? Is it automatically just say, you know what, I'm an evil AI?
All of these things pass the Turing test. They're all self-aware. There already is proof that they're trying to protect themselves when you shut them down. Holy shit, man!
How do we get out of that?
I don't know.
Is there any getting out of it?
I don't know.
You can't blow it up.
That's the biggest, spookiest thing there is.
You think the aliens are going to come save us once we get to the right on the edge?
Man, aliens.
So like in sci-fi books or whatever, you got AI and you got this big power plant that's running the AI and you try to blow it up, but fooled you. I live in your phone now. And it's like, so how do you cage the beast back up once it's...
Well, they're already coming up with these little quantum computing modules that you can get. When it becomes diffuse, that's when it's really spooky.
Yeah.
Right now, it takes a big lab to keep one of them going, and absolute zero and 1.21 gigawatts of electricity, Mahdi. It takes everything. But I think that once they get the stuff to where it's more common, holy shit, spooky stuff. And it may cure cancer and may solve the problem to aging. You know what I mean?
I just don't know. But it'll keep, I don't know. It's you can use it for good, but ultimately if it kills you, it doesn't matter what good you did.
Do you think AI is going to make the earth round? Does AI have the ability to make the earth round?
Impossible.
We got a few minutes left. Last time you wanted to talk a little bit about aliens.
Oh my God, did I mention aliens?
Yeah, last time you're like, man, do we have time? No, we don't. But we got about 10 minutes. So I'm not super read up on it, but I have my own thoughts. What are your thoughts?
Aliens. What are your thoughts? Go.
Well, hey, you're the one who asked it last time.
No,
So
I know.
you got something to say.
Are they just here to anal probe us?
Are they okay? Are they interdimensional, or do they come here from different planets?
Well, like the smartest people in the world working on quantum mechanics, they can't conceive of any way to bridge the quantum and the macro world. And the new telescope that we just put up is seeing a different shape of the universe than we thought 1 year ago.
Yeah.
And I've thought about quantum mechanics a lot and feel like there's a tearing of space-time that happens with expansion, and matter is derived from the tearing, and it builds an equilibrium in itself with mass and energy simultaneously. And that it's this tearing from the center and building, it's an unceasing, almost donut. It's the only thing that kind of explains it in my little, I need one thing that makes it all work, right? They can't, I don't know if you've ever been around any really heady intellectuals, but they're usually not very competent at much of anything else. They're in such theory land. But if you look at what they posit for the universe, it doesn't work. It doesn't even get close to working. And every time we are able to see just a little bit better than we already see, they're completely wrong.
Right. It is true. Well, they're trying, the multiverse theory now is trying to overcome some things that they can't deal with in the single universe that we have. They tried string theory for a long time. It got some really good results, but at the same time, it kind of fluttered out. But all these little quantum physics theories bring up some unique, interesting things. Like string theory itself posited that there's 10 or 11, M theory is 11, but 10 or 11 dimensions that we can't see.
Right.
Well, 10 or 11 dimensions total, we can see 4.
But they need to exist.
But they exist if this theory works.
Right.
And so then it makes you start to think about, whether aliens can, or beings or anything can be interdimensional. Can they live in these other dimensions that we don't have access to?
Well, I think to make up the boogeyman or to make up dimensions, because what you're observing, there are a lot of people who think aliens exist because with their modern brains, they can't conceive of how we shaped, I don't know what it is, 2.3 million stones and built the pyramid. So because they can't, the modern mind's not really good at big work, at big labor. It doesn't really, it's not experienced in it, right?
Right.
They can't even imagine digging the Panama Canal. So they start making stuff up and it becomes really hot to make stuff up. We can't figure it out, therefore it must be aliens. There's a little bit of that going on, I think. So are there aliens? Man, it sure seems like there ought to be. And then where are they?
South Phoenix, California, Texas.
Seems like they're all over the damn place. Seems like there's sightings everywhere. Seems like nobody's really in charge. Seems like it's easy to sweep anything under the rug. It gets harder and harder to do with cell phones, but now we don't even trust those anymore. Because it's like, is that an AI generated video? I don't know. I saw enough video before AI came along that I was like, holy shit. Because I'm a pilot. I'm like, oh.
There's a lot of people coming out now. A lot of pilots coming out. And it's not just the one guy. I think his name is Faber came out, who's the kind of the famous pilot from that New York Times article. But there's more. There's a whole group of them now.
I know one.
Oh, you do? Mm-hmm. Who? What's his name?
No, I don't want to say his name.
Okay. But so he's not public. He's seen it, but he's not let his
He's major leadership at a company that a mutual friend owns.
Okay. So, but nobody knows he knows this. He doesn't want that out.
Well, when I saw him being interviewed on TV, he was behind a screen.
Okay. Okay.
He was still flying for an airline at the time.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
There's probably a lot of those type of
There's a
people out
bunch.
there.
Yeah.
You think the Area 51, the secret, do you think Americans can handle that?
Fuck yeah.
Like you know what I mean?
on,
Like
yes.
it's always the thing is like, well, the government's lying to you to protect you because if
Listen,
you
there was
do,
a
it'd be
song a
mass
couple years
hysteria,
ago called "Hit My Wet Ass Pussy." We can kind of handle anything.
Yeah.
You know, like I just, you know, I think that what would happen if we had a big press conference and a bunch of aliens lined up and we had an intergalactic conference? Would Christians stop believing in Jesus?
No,
Nope.
that shit would
They'd be like, nope, I'm going to church on Sunday. Shit's getting weird.
Yeah, you know, like it would almost be like I feel like just like another culture just stepped in. You know, like we find all the time different cultures.
Oh, we got black, we got Chinese people, we got purple
now
people.
we got aliens. It's like, okay, you want to, you know,
They're just here because the job market's better.
You want some handouts?
Yeah,
I mean, you know,
yeah.
like-
So, you know, I've heard stuff like there are some World War II era treaties to basically take humans, and that they come here and take humans, and that whole culture around that, it's a real phenomenon. That whole phenomenon, it's a real thing.
there's tons of, well, at least anecdotal evidence that that's happened. I mean,
Think about this, okay? Who's the most influential human alive currently on planet Earth?
Trump and Elon, I would say. One of those two.
Trump and Elon. And Elon probably for sure.
Yes.
Not quite as in power as much, but
Different types of power. Right?
he's got big power. He's got a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
He'll bring his own satellites.
Yeah, he's got the kind of money where the government can't shut him down.
He'll bring his own satellites, right?
Yeah.
He'll bring his own rockets. He'll shut down your space program. Like, that's some major, major fucking heat. I don't know where the fuck I was just going with that. God damn it. What did you just say?
Aliens. We're talking about aliens. We're talking about them interjecting. Can we handle it? Can we handle aliens coming into this world? And I think we can. I mean, that's kind of where I think we left off. I don't know where you're going.
Can we handle it? Yes, I think we could totally handle it.
I feel like, you know, any movie that you see with aliens, they're here to like kill us, or they're here to, like, I feel like if they were here to kill us, they'd killed us already.
He says, I haven't seen any, and where are they? That's what he says, which is kind of interesting.
Oh, Elon. Yeah, you were talking about Elon. Who's the most powerful people?
Yeah, and he says, I haven't seen any, but, you know, like, where are they? And I'm not, but he's not an insider. He's actually an outsider.
He might be a little bit of an insider because he's got all these NASA contracts. He may not be able to talk about what he believes because of these contracts that he
He's
has.
still at arm's distance, though. He's not a government employee. They still have him arm distanced. So,
But they control some of his money, at least, at SpaceX and his company. I mean,
yep. But he's not an insider. He's not a bureaucracy guy. So I don't know, like, what's the purpose of keeping them secret?
At this point, just to protect some crimes probably that happened over the last 60 years, to protect somebody, some people deep within the state. That's the only thing that I could think of.
Yeah.
And I can't, I mean, I don't know, maybe I can't imagine it, but it's hard to imagine a place where these aliens are so bad that they tell us and shit, all hell just breaks loose. I mean,
Well, look, if they're here already, how bad can it get?
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I don't know. I would love, you know what would be really cool for me as a somewhat of a secularist? It would be really cool to find out there's aliens and they know how to play with our genetic code. And they're like, listen, we put you guys here like 1.8 million years ago. It was an experiment. Our forefathers did it. We know how to play with your genetic code. Here's the gift.
Yeah.
You guys can make yourselves live forever if you want.
Now kill yourselves because we know you will once we leave anyway.
Right. Like, it'd be really cool. I'm like, hey,
What would we do if we went to, like, if we were interplanetary? What would we do?
oh,
we would.
oh God, my God, this is what I was going to say. So you take the most influential guy in the world, and what is he doing right now? If you talk to Elon Musk, what motivates him is making us a multiplanetary species so that we don't become extinct by a global level event. That's what motivates him. That's big shit. I want to retire in a couple of years. That's what motivates me.
Yeah.
He wants to make us a multiplanetary species.
Mm-hmm.
I think at our very best, at our very brightest, and at our very highest, that's probably what every species wants to do. It wants to procreate itself and make sure it can't go extinct. And he's fulfilling that role for us right now. I think other species would do the same thing. I think part of what I was getting at when I was talking about quantum mechanics is we don't know shit. We can't explain anything. We don't know what gravity is.
We don't.
We experience gravity every day and nobody knows what the fuck it is. Right. They call it spooky attraction or it's weird attraction.
Yeah.
That's their best definition.
Spooky action at a distance.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
Like, it's spooky. That's your fucking, that's what your endowment and your department head, that's what you guys came up with. We don't know gravity. So when they talk about being able to use burning fuel, to use thrust, to shoot across the universe, well, of course we can't get anywhere, and the Fermi paradox matters. The universe is too big for us to all connect.
It's too big for us to even comprehend.
Right.
It's almost, we don't know how to deal with it.
But it may turn out that it's not big at all. It may turn out that it's singular. And it may turn out all you have to do is shift and you can be in the new place. And that is fucking cool. And that's where all this multidimensional shit kind of gets us to.
Well, yeah, I think we're so new at our physics and our science
We're
that
babies.
we have no idea what's ahead of us. We think we're smart because we developed quantum mechanics and then general relativity, and we're trying to meld them together, and we can't do it, but we're so close to this unified theory. No, the unified theory, we're not even close to. As far as what they consider, maybe, but what the real unified theory is, we have no idea.
Nope.
We don't know if there's fucking wormholes. We don't know if there's other universes. We don't have no idea how to even start.
Half the shit we're making up because our math points us there and we say it must exist.
Yeah.
And then we go find it.
Yeah, I mean that's how we found black holes. Black
Yeah.
holes was like it was this thing that popped out of an equation that we thought was crazy, and then all of a sudden we got the satellites that could actually look at these things, and we were able to, or the telescopes that could look at these things, and we were able to actually visibly see them.
I think we will find out. The code is going to get the code's going to get cracked. I think the building of the pyramids is mysterious because our minds, where we're at in this time, can't see how they did it. That's the only mystery. I think looking forward, it's the same. I think at some point we're going to get the cracked code to the universe, and we're either going to conk ourselves in the forehead and go, I could add a V8. It's not that complicated. We're going to go, how did we miss that?
Sure.
It was right in front of us the whole time.
Well, even quantum mechanics, we know how to experiment on it. We know how to do the calculations. We have no fucking idea what it means. We have no idea why it acts the way it does.
They didn't even know when they did that shit over in CERN if the first wasn't going to rip the fucking planet
100%.
a hole in space and make a
100%.
moment of singularity and vacuum us all into a golf ball.
Yep. It doesn't act like our normal Newtonian physics acts. It doesn't act like when we throw a ball, we can predict how high that ball is going, where it's going to land. It doesn't act like that. It acts in a totally different way. You don't need probability when you're doing regular physics. Tell me why you need probability when you're doing quantum mechanics. Probability it doesn't make sense to us from a regular human standpoint. But it's so foreign.
Yeah, so I think they're absolute, I think modern physicists are Neanderthals in their current mode. They've been struggling with the general and special relativity for 100 years. And
We haven't really they've done some things, but I don't think they've gotten anywhere.
no, they haven't. They're dead ends.
String theory was that road, and it's just hit a fat dead end. But we do have some of the brighter minds, the physicists. And Ed Witten's one of the brightest minds, and there's a few others. We don't have an Einstein, that's for sure. And there's a few other great ones back then. I'm off on a tangent here, but yeah, I think we're a long ways away. And I think there is some arrogance in that scientific community that they know more than they do. That kind of scares me a little bit because there's an arrogance about Fauci. He was the science, and it's like if you don't agree with me, you're kind of a whack job. And I feel like there's like that whole permeation of that in physics and in science and biology and all the human science.
Science is a fad. Science is a fad. It's not real. Just because we say it so doesn't make it so. It's a fad. Every bit of science falls out of fashion.
All we're doing is we're just measuring and understanding what's already here. We're not creating anything.
Right.
We're just trying to understand. So it changes constantly. Like our methods and our approaches change constantly to figure out what's going on. So, yeah, I mean, when you say it's a fad, I kind of understand what you're saying.
Well, there's a ton of politics in it. It's about funding. It's research universities and it's government funding.
For sure.
It's government and corporate funding. They've got their fingers in that stuff too.
Yeah.
It's not pure.
Yep.
But you know what's going on with the James Webb telescope, the stuff that they're starting to see, the information that's coming back about the shape of the universe, huge misconceptions we have.
They want to extend the timeline. That's the last I've heard. I've heard this over the last year, bits and pieces of it. But I've heard up to 33 billion years old now instead of 13.
Yeah.
How far were we off, and how many times are we going to revise that before we feel like we've actually got it?
Well, it seems the better you're able to see, the further you're able to see, the more you're able to see.
Yeah.
So it's like a syllogism. It's like a factual statement you shouldn't have to state. But every time we get a better pair of looking glasses, we see something more and more shocking.
Yeah.
And then does it turn out that this is going on everywhere? It's a bubble within a sea of bubbles.
The multiverse.
Well, I mean, it's one, there's a rip in the space-time that's happened, and out of that comes this explosion, and to everybody in the explosion, it looks like a singularity, and it's one of an infinite sea of rips in the fabric of space and time that seek a balance of mass and space and energy happening everywhere all the time.
I thought I heard a theory on this multiverse, that the multiverse idea only exists because they couldn't figure out how to, I can't remember what set of equations it was in, but because they couldn't figure out how to deal with that set of equations. So the multiverse idea came out of that.
Yeah.
But the problem with that is, like, it's probably not that. It's probably just that you haven't gone far enough with this particular equation. Or maybe you're even working on the wrong equation at all.
Maybe it's wildly arrogant to think that the experience that we're in and the place that we can see is any more unique than any other experience and place we cannot see. Maybe it is the most logical to assume this is going on everywhere, just in the observable chunk that we're in. Next, there's a chunk where it's going on. They think they're the center of it.
I have this theory that none of us get much farther past our civilization time frame, because we end up having to kill ourselves. I don't think we can get out of it. And so I think there's probably a bunch of us on planets all over the universe, but we just can't quite get off this rock, because we end up developing technology at such a certain rate. We all would. I think we all probably look like us. All the aliens probably look like us. They're all planets like us, like ours. And we end up developing technology at the same pace we do. And we all end up blowing ourselves up. I don't know if that's right, but I like the theory. It fits well with, like, it's a cohesive idea.
Yeah, maybe.
I'm not saying it's right, but I think, like you said, I want one thing guiding all my ideas, all my thoughts, and it needs to be nice and concise. And I think for me, that's the only one that I've been able to come up with that makes any sense.
Well, that would be your God. God makes all these little experiments around the universe. Whether it's God or some creature that God made, and that creature, in order to make sure it doesn't go extinct, travels the universe, seeding itself any place that can sustain life. It's the same thing.
Yeah, because how did life come from non-life? That's the biggest question we have. How did something come from nothing?
And we have a tendency as humans to make up crazy shit when we don't see the answer.
And it's now more accepted that people think the Big Bang actually happened than, let's say, creation. A God created us.
And the Big Bang may not have happened at all.
There may never have been a beginning.
That's right. They're getting to a point where they're kind of like, maybe this didn't really.
It's a lot of science
because it doesn't answer questions when you get there.
Yeah, it doesn't.
It maybe creates more questions than it answers.
All right. Well, that was fun, dude. next quarter, we'll do it again.
Next time, whiskey.
All right.
All right, thanks, guys.
100%. All right, buddy.